Hi guys, I wanted to show you guys how I made this mask in case it gets down to the point that we're having to do this. And we already kind of are, right? So I'm Amber, if this is getting spread outside of my group of friends, and my husband Jeremy is an ER doc, and they have been short supply of PPE for a week now, and very limited supply, so they are only getting an N95 mask, which is the appropriate mask that they need to be wearing when they're dealing with patients. They're only getting one of those when they are intubating or doing suction. So in the meantime, they are not really properly protected, and that's the reality that we're dealing with right now. So I wanted to do something, and I found a good tutorial, but I wanted to show you some of the modifications that I made to this mask because I think that they might be helpful, including a metal nosebridge piece to this, and then including an air filter inside of it. So the pattern that I used was from Craft Passion. I'll link that below. I'm pretty sure it was Craft Passion. So she has a pretty good pattern. It's a little bit larger than this, and you're cutting out two pieces to make the two sides of the mask and the two pieces for the inner lining, and stitch those together. And then she mentions, just for the outer part that goes around your ear, doing kind of like an elastic twist tie, which would work well in her pattern. You could just sew it into the two sides right here and then have that go behind the ear. But I can tell you that they really don't like the masks that are latched right behind their ears because it hurts them throughout the day having to wear that all day. So it's really better if you're able to do an elastic band that goes around the head. That'll be much more comfortable for whoever you're making this for. And then when I found that I did the elastic piece that went up and around the head, that an elastic piece on the base didn't really work because it was hard to get the mask on. So I used Velcro on the base, and then he can Velcro that together on the back. So the way that this mask works is you can actually, if you have an N95, or I don't have an N95 right now, but this is a similar type of mask that you can wear, and that's similar in size, at least to figure out for sizing. And if I put this on, you can see that I can put the fabric cloth mask over. And my thought with this, and I don't want to leave this on in case you can't hear very well, is that it at least gives a protection and a cover, because for those of us who maybe do have a husband who's lucky enough to have one N95, they are reusing this for every patient that they're going in to see, and maybe multiple shifts. Now, these weren't really meant to be used more than 4 hours, and they really were meant to be used as a one-time use around a patient that you're exposed to, but that's not what we're facing right now. So I thought that this might at least be a good protection over an N95 if you have an actual N95 mask. And then we decided to just make them a little bit more durable. And what I mean by that is the original mask pattern, when you go to put it on, it fits pretty well, but there is definitely a gap right in here, because there has to be. Your nose bridge is right here, and then it's not hitting your face again from right here, so you have a really significant gap right here. So what I did for my first version is I got some of these twist ties that you use you know, for like your bread or anything like that, maybe garbage bags, and I put one through the lining piece and then the outside cotton fabric, and I put it up against the bridge, and then I stitched that into place. So you can see that, and it's not super strong, but it's better than not having the piece in there. So you can do that, and you get a much better grip. My husband wanted something even more sturdy than this, so what we did is got a little bit stronger gauge wire. We happen to have a bunch of this on hand because we have a farm. Oops, upside down. So this is aluminum wire, 17 gauge. We actually use this for the electrical fence in our pasture for the farm animals so they don't get out. And so we just happen to have some of this, and that's what I've been using to make these masks. And this wire is really nice because it will bend and it will form. But once you do that, it really does hold the shape that you bend it into. And so to get that to stay into the actual mask, what I did is I used the pattern and I did the outline of the way that it goes up around the nose, and I left about a 1-inch piece that was folded at the center, so that that piece makes up this extra piece that you see I've sewn in here. So I did a stitch at the top to put that in here, and then I gave it a nice about inch gap. You maybe don't need that much, but you got to remember that the metal needs to be able to kind of bend throughout there and go in whatever direction it needs. So you don't want to make it super tight because you might have a hard time bending it. So I gave a little bit of a gap, and the metal piece is in there. I could take the metal piece out if I wanted to wash this, because our intent is to take out the filter after each shift and throw that away and use a new filter for each shift, and then wash the face mask each day and use a new face mask the next day until you have one of the washed ones. So that is our intent. The metal then goes in here. And then in terms of what are we using for the air filter on the inside, it seemed like there was an NIH study from 2015 that talked about if you just had the cloth mask, you actually might be doing more harm and spreading more viruses because of things that could be trapped onto the material. So it may actually be detrimental to have just the cloth mask. So we thought, well, if you're going to make this useful, you really have to have a filter of some sort. And you know, I don't know what material is in an N95 filter, and I don't know if anyone else is finding that information handy. But what we did is the best that we could do with what we have at the house, and we have some extra air filters. So they're air filters that we use for the furnace, and we weren't using it right now. So what we did is just pulled apart all the box, the cardboard box that it's placed in. And when you do that, you can pull it out so it's no longer bent, and you can see that you pretty much have this same material that is going to be very similar, or at least it feels and looks and even smells, my husband says, very similar to the type of mask that they're using at the hospital. So I don't know that it's a strong enough filter to protect against viruses. On the box, it claims that it works for mold and bacteria. So I don't know if viruses are in that as well, but I feel like it's better than doing nothing. So what I did is I took, for my husband on the pattern, I used the adult male sizing when I cut out the pieces for the cotton, and then I used the small kid sizing to cut out the pieces for the filter. And what I went ahead and did is I just folded this in half, put this along the fold, and then cut along here, and so left some of that in the folded center so that I don't have like two separate pieces, but instead one solid mask that goes all the way across. Once you have that cut off of there, it's a little tricky to get it into the mask because of the metal that is on top of those filters, but I just kind of rolled it a little bit to be able to stick that into the side and insert it in here, so you can see that it's in here. The side with the metal is the side that goes out, and then this softer side, the back side of the filter, is what I have in here. And our intent is to discard that at the end of a shift, bring the mask home, and then wash it, and then use a clean washed mask with a brand new filter on the next shift. So is this going to protect against coronavirus? I have no clue, but we have to do something because it's desperate times right now. And would I bet my life on it that it's gonna work? No, but apparently we're being asked to bet our husbands' lives on it. So hopefully, maybe this is useful, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of information. The tutorial is pretty easy to follow, and I'll link to that, and maybe it'll help. So thank you guys for watching.